Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, a member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Angry Joe Coffee, and Tape Armor. Get all your tape, coffee, and soap needs if you go to our website and follow the links. And you can find all of our old shows on bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and today I got a special guest with me. I got Chase Davis from Nice Guy Submission Academy out there in Kentucky, a brown belt and a pretty active competitor. So, Chase, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'll be honest, this is my first podcast, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
Good deal, man. Well, it was funny because we talked a little bit before we started recording that pretty much Joey, a mutual friend of ours, I knew Joey in the Army, and he was like, hey, check it out, and then said that you would be a good guy to have on our show.
Yeah, man. I met Joey once through a close friend, my close friend's sister. He was dating her there for a little bit, and got to meet him once. And I posted something the other day, joking around about being on a podcast because I'd never been on one. And all of a sudden, I hadn't talked to him in months. He just shoots me a message. He's like, "Hey, bro, I know a guy through the Army. I got you hooked up with him." And I was like, "Hey, man, I know that podcast." So,
yeah,
small world, man.
Fuck yeah. I'm excited when people, like, you know, it's cool with Joey, but then when people are like, yeah, I know that podcast, and it's a positive reaction, not like, I didn't know that podcast. But that's good. That's good shit, man. So
yeah, man, it's pretty cool, man. It's one reason that I love what we do. You know, like just so many different people you get to meet, different walks of life. It's probably my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu.
Oh, same here, man. Like, just everybody can be the same on the mat, but different in life, and you get so many different experiences, and you just run into people all over the place. That's probably one of the, like you said, one of the greatest things about doing jiu-jitsu.
I think one thing that I like the best is guys that look like they're going to be douchebags or not. A lot of times.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah. Like
you have that look, and then you talk to him, and you're like, "Man, this guy's the nicest guy ever. I cannot believe that I thought that you would be a jerk."
Yeah, and the exact opposite too sometimes. But I like the fact that you got like these guys who, you know, not very intimidating looking, but dude, they'll just choke the life out of you, like, and just not even like break a sweat doing it.
I think I like meeting the guys that look like they may be jerks, and they end up being pretty cool because we don't really have any guys at our gym that just like look like they're hard asses.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Joe Bass, who I train under. Like, I mean, you know, look at him. He, you know, he doesn't act like a tough guy. He doesn't look like a tough guy, but that guy is an incredible jiu-jitsu player. You know, like, and he's vicious. So I like that about what we do. You know, you never know. The biggest tough guy could be the biggest sissy, and then your littlest guy can be the toughest guy you can find.
Absolutely. So how did you get started in jiu-jitsu? Like, what drove you to start training?
I did Taekwondo when I was younger, and you know, kind of like karate. And I remember my brother introduced me to the UFC, and he showed me Lyoto Machida, because at that time I was doing karate, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's doing karate, and he's beating boxers or whatever. And he also, I remember it would show the tail of the tape, and it would say, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And I'm like, okay, he's got to stand up. I need a ground game if I ever want to do something like this.
Right.
So I started training Jiu-Jitsu a few years later after that, and I just fell in love with it.
Good deal. So was Nice Guy Submission Academy the first place you started training?
Yes, that is the first. My first real training came out of Nice Guy whenever I was 14. I started whenever I was 14 years old. Right after I used to play football, so right after football season, get shot, and never played football again after that day.
Wow. So a complete convert over to just straight Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu then, huh?
Oh, yeah, man. Looking back on it, I was like, I cannot believe like how I did that. I played football my whole life, and, you know, I was pretty decent at it, and nothing crazy special, but I enjoyed it. But after doing jiu-jitsu for maybe 3 or 4 months, and still terrible, I was like, I want to stop football. I like jiu-jitsu too much. So looking back on it, I was like, man, that was a pretty rash decision to be training 3 or 4 months, but I'm really happy I did it.
Yeah, it seems to be paying off for you pretty well because you're a pretty active competitor, aren't you?
Yeah, man. I like to compete. With me being in college, it's a little bit tougher money-wise to be able to go at all the different places that I want to and compete, and to be able to train full time. But that's the ultimate goal. That's what I'm working towards. To be able to train full time, but around in the Midwest, that training full time is not as common as you would find on the West Coast or the East Coast as much. It's definitely possible, and there are people who do it, but it's not. It's hard. It's hard to create a market in some places that are smaller towns.
It really is, and that's something I've heard talked a lot about as far as being like kind of in the Midwest or the middle of the United States. Is very difficult to have like a big conglomeration or just a large group of jiu-jitsu schools to train out of. But do you see it? Is it growing, or is it kind of staying the same, or is it still do you have difficulty finding those tournaments and getting to them, and or is it just difficult to find other schools to train with? Possibly.
There's plenty of tournaments around here. There's not any like Fight the Win comes around, but there's not any big shows like invitationals or anything that I like to do. There's not a ton around here, but every time a big invitational rolls around, I'll travel for those.
Right.
But, competition isn't as bad. I'm talking more or less about running a gym and stuff like that. Like Nice Guy. Let me think now. We just had 2 people at the ADCC West Coast Trials in the finals. We had 2 finalists at what was the toughest ADCC ever.
Yeah.
So trials ever. It was neat. But fact is, man, all of our people work full time, and I'm the only one who goes to school full time.
Wow.
So we all train once a day. Joe Bays, my coach, he's a black belt. He's been on EBI twice. He's been to ADCC. So it's a grappling. We got a lot of really good grapplers that just aren't training full time, and that's what I want to work towards, where we can all train full time and truly, truly reach our full potential.
Do you see that, like as far as train full time? Do you see that being as more of like something that's attainable within the next couple of years? Or do you see like the sport continuing to grow and it being probably a little bigger further out?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. I think it's going to be a little bit further down the road than 1 or 2 years before things really start, going, especially around here. But I say that, and in the 5 years that I've been training, the sport has changed dramatically. Like its growth and how many people know what the jiu-jitsu is, and people knowing what EBI is. It's cool. We're seeing the infant stage of what I think this will eventually become, as far as people, just normal people knowing what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah, it's getting a little more mainstream. Like, we see it in, what was it, The Simpsons, or what was it, Key and Peele did the tackle and grapple skit. Like, more and more people are going to find out about it. And, if you can find a gym like the tackle and grapple, that's cool, I guess. But
EBI being on UFC Fight Pass is really big.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, how much people paid attention to that until one time I was up at college, and I was wearing a jiu-jitsu T-shirt, lifting weights, and, a guy comes up and strikes a conversation, and, and I was, at this point, I had recently just gone against Boogeyman Martinez.
Right.
And the guy was, and I said that name, not expecting him to know who that is at all. And he's like, he was on EBI. And I was like, oh, wow, you know what EBI is? I'm like, you watch EBI? You're a 20-year-old college student. I didn't think, just like me, but none of the other ones know what EBI is.
Right.
So that was really cool for me. That was an eye-opening experience. I was like, man, this sport's gaining more popularity, I think, than what we realize.
Yeah, it's definitely growing, and the more people that see it, the obviously the bigger it gets, and stuff like you said, UFC Fight Pass with EBI, stuff like that. That's gonna be big. I think Fight to Win's doing a huge thing as well. They're putting on big shows everywhere they go, and there's
Yeah, man.
oh, go ahead.
Fight to Win is good.
Yeah, we just had one of the ladies who worked on there, Miss Estrada. She came on and talked a lot about setting it up and running things around, or running shows around and getting it all set up. So I mean, they're doing a lot. And I mean, something kind of going back to what we were talking about with full-time training stuff. For now, I remember there being an article about like the top 10 most paid jiu-jitsu athletes this year, and like I think the top person made like what 50,000-60,000 that year just from training. Like that hurts.
Yeah.
It's like the level of you're looking at some of these UFC fighters, you don't get paid that much either. So, but that sport's a little more mature as far as mainstream, and we see how that's happened. But with, like you were talking about, a little more than 1 or 2 years out, we probably will see just a big boom in it, in popularity as well as people getting involved in it.
What is a cliche thing to say, and but it's true, is I think athletes in all combat sports, especially jiu-jitsu and MMA, they need to know their worth.
Yeah.
A lot of this, like us, any jiu-jitsu competitor that's made it to a high level now was at that point where they were paying to do tournaments. Every tournament they did, you paid to enter, and now people, these athletes are starting to figure out, hey, I can make money doing this. Like if I get good enough, people want to watch me grapple. So you're starting to have this. It sucks to say, but there is a divide in the jiu-jitsu community about how the athletes should be paid.
Right. Yeah.
I think that it's what I was saying is I just think we're in a very, very early stage of the development, and what people are going to look back on and say that this is the super early stage of jiu-jitsu competitions and athletes actually making a living off of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, it's only going to go up from here. And, for like martial arts stuff, you talked about you had Taekwondo experience and karate experience and stuff like that. And, karate and Taekwondo for a while, that was like the king of martial arts that everybody was getting involved in. And honestly, it still kind of is, mainly because of the access that people have to it. Like, every strip mall's got, Master Lee or Master Rob, Master Chase's freaking Taekwondo school or whatever. So the access is there, but eventually, do you feel like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would take over that if there was more places for people to train?
Absolutely. I think that it's going to be something where you're going to have to start informing people. A lot of people, I think, associate jiu-jitsu with MMA because it does have a very real connection. But then whenever moms start thinking about their kids doing something possibly connected to something like the UFC, it's kind of a weird thought, and I could see why somebody who is uninformed could get that mixed up. And I think it's just going to be getting the information out there, letting people know, and showing people kids classes and stuff like that. Because I think that karate, like that's what they're thriving off of is kids,
Right.
And sometimes parents, like, hey, my mom and dad, great parents, they both just wanted to spend time with me, so they did karate with me, And I think it's one of those things like that where it's a lot of kids. And I think once you get to where you're informing parents that don't know about jiu-jitsu and the benefits and stuff that it can have for children, I think that's when you're going to see the tables turn as far as the amount of schools, to match up with karate or taekwondo or whatever it may be.
Right. And, coming from a school like yours where, you have some very accomplished grapplers there, do you find it difficult trying to get people who are not interested in competing to get in there? Or is it just kind of because, like you say, you expect the guy who looks like the douchebag to be a douchebag, but it turns out they're like one of the nicest people. Are people still kind of hesitant to come in there, or are you guys having, I guess, maybe a little easier of a time bringing in people who are like looking for something to do, or they want to train with their kids or stuff like that?
Man, we have a wide variety of people. You know, like we've got competitors. We've got some stud teenagers that we moved up into. You know, that we've taken them from the kids class and we're moving them into the adults early. We've got you know, my dad is over 50. He's 53, and he trains with us every single day.
Wow.
With the competitors, hard rolling. Actually, until the other day, whenever I got my brown belt, me and my dad have been promoted to blue and purple together.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, man, it's pretty neat. But like I said, we got a wide variety of people in there. We have one woman who's a stud. I don't know if you've heard of Nikki Sullivan, but she's a stud. She just got second at the 80cc trials, and like I said, we got a big mix in there right now, and I think everybody really thrives off of that. There's a lot of laughs. It's a lot of fun. I think you keep jiu-jitsu fun, I think everybody's going to hit their peak whenever they're having fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. When it becomes like a chore, nobody wants to do it, like, at all. And I understand that completely.
Yeah. And fact is, man, whenever you're a competitor and you want to be a high-level competitor, sometimes it is going to be a chore. Sometimes, you know, you don't really want to go to the gym, but you got a big competition coming up and you got to train. You know, it's one of those things. But for the people, you know, you want it to be an atmosphere for people who are just training for fun, that you come in here whenever you want. You are our guest. We are happy to have you here. And I think that we have that kind of atmosphere. But as far as our competitors, you know, like we're tough on each other, man. We're all like really good friends. And we all hang out together all the time, so we're always on each other's butts about, you know, training and making sure we're all at the gym and stuff like that.
Nice, very nice. And, you know, accountability does help out a lot, and a welcoming environment. Like, all that together helps out so much.
What I think makes Nice Guy and a little bit unique is how close of friends, like, a lot of the guys are. You know, like our friends outside, you know, a lot of people have their friends outside of jiu-jitsu, and I do too. But the fact is, like, my jiu-jitsu friends have become my best friends.
Oh, yeah.
So, camaraderie, you know, like, man, jiu-jitsu led me to those people too. So, yeah, man, I think the camaraderie is a really big part of it. And I think that's why jiu-jitsu attracts so many different people. Everybody knows, you know, jiu-jitsu, a lot of us are a lot of weirdos.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know? We are, dude. And I have no problem with that at all. And that's what I think is the coolest thing about it is, you know, just I can't think off the top of my head just like a perfect example of somebody that I met that, you know, was really interesting. But it's everywhere. You know, you get to see a lot of different cultures, a lot of different lifestyles, and I just think that's really cool. From your gym rat, you know, that pretty much eat and sleep and live in the gym, to the guy, you know, who's a doctor that just comes in once or twice a week whenever he can.
Yeah.
That's what I like about what we do.
No, I think that's perfect, actually. We are weird. I would just had this conversation. They're like, I was explaining to somebody, like, yeah, man, you know, a lot of jiu-jitsu, MMA people, we're nerds, man. Like, you know, I love Dune.
Real?
I love Dune way too much. Like, you know, I bought my the Show Your Old Dune gi, not because, you know, Ryan Hall is cool. Like, I like Ryan Hall, but it was a Dune gi, like, you know, that sci-fi book from back in the day. So that's like that's like that's why. But so for your so, you know, everybody knows about, like, prepping for tournaments, all that good stuff. Like, what's your normal go-to after a tournament is over? Like, after a good competition, what do you like to do?
I'm going to go eat pizza and drink beer.
Hell yeah.
For real, man. You know, if you get to know our crew on Facebook, you realize that, you know, like, a lot of our guys, they like their beer. And I do occasionally, but it's typically competition related. I feel like you got to earn that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times, man, just going out downtown. Sometimes it's with my teammates if they're with me, and sometimes it's with people, you know, a bunch of different guys. In Memphis a few weekends ago, I went down there and ended up staying. Let me think. It was, do you know Josh LeDuc? He runs Sapatero.
Yeah.
The Sapatero Invitational. I was down there. I commentated the event.
Oh, nice.
And I think me, him, Taza, Oliver Taza, and Sonny Parlin, and all of us, and a bunch of the guys from Florida. We all went out down there. So I think that's some of the best moments. Like after a competition is getting to go out with friends that you may not get to see every weekend. That you that live in different places and stuff like that, going to a new city or whatever. I think that's my favorite part of competition is the new places and the activities afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Going out to eat, hanging.
Yeah, those.
What do you like to do?
Oh, oh yeah, I do compete. I didn't say I competed well though, so but no, man. Oh shit, this is the first time I've had an person I was interviewing ask me a question. Same thing, man.
I'm interested. I need ideas.
Do what now?
I said I need ideas.
Oh shit.
Whatever.
So, Sean and I, when we compete, we go down to LA or whatnot. We always, usually after every tournament, we'll get an In-N-Out burger. Doesn't matter.
Oh man.
That is.
Dude, we did that in California. Whenever we were in California for ADCC trials.
Yeah.
That's the first place we went when we left the arena.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know why it is. Like, fuck your acai bowl, man. I don't want that. Let's go to In-N-Out. Let's get like, someone's going to give me a heart attack and a chocolate shake and sit there and let's reflect on either we did good or we sucked. That was it.
Exactly. The funny part was, like, whenever we went there, though, one of the guys who had just won the trials was there, too, at the same In-N-Out. I was like, oh, at least they know what's up.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, maybe, I don't know if you have any insight into it, but, like, is it just because it's something you can't get, or is it, like, legitimately good? Because I'm having, like, this kind of, like, weird...
It's both.
I mean, yeah, it's not like a shitty hamburger or anything. I'm just like, you don't get it very often. I think that might be like one of the big appeals of it. But, you can go down to like some mom and pop's place and get like kind of the same thing almost.
Oh, yeah. But I think there's just something about it being an In-N-Out burger. But you were talking about, what we do after competition. I'll tell you what, man, like, I've competed well over 40 times now.
Wow.
And I still get just as nervous as I used to, whenever I first started. I still get really nervous, but that's what calms me down. Is I think about what I'm going to eat after and how much fun I'm going to have after competition.
Really?
That's how I calm down and get like, okay, it's all good. Regardless of what happens here, we're going In-N-Out, and then
yeah, and just hang out with friends. Like, you pay to do jiu-jitsu against people that you've probably never met before, never trained against before, and then you just get to hang out with your friends. So, like, I don't see unless you get hurt real bad, I don't see, like, a losing side of any of these situations.
Oh, no, not at all. It definitely sucks to lose. And I've had my fair share of tough losses, dude. Over the last year, I've had a lot of tough losses. The fact is like every time after I sit back down, whether it be the next day or a week later or whatever, just sitting back in, it's going to pay off in the long run. All of these are great experiences. And I think that that's really important to take with you in the competition is that regardless of what happens here, it's going to make you a better person and a better grappler regardless in some way. You may not see it immediately, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I always joke about this. Like, I feel like I give pretty good advice about competition. Like, not necessarily like doing moves and stuff, but like, hey, you know what? You go out there and you win or you lose, you should always be, like happy you're out there, right? But then when I lose, I'm not like the happiest dude on the face of the earth. Like, do you find yourself in a similar situation trying to help people out? Like, oh, it's okay that you lost, but then you always like, fuck jiu-jitsu, man, this is bullshit.
Dude, I am the epitome of a do as I say, not as I do type friend whenever it comes to losing.
Right.
100%, man. I mean, I'll be honest. I take losing very hard. It's I would say it's harder for me to swallow than, you know, a lot of people. I've always been that way ever since I was little. But I think that's kind of what fuels me too. So it's a gift and a curse, you know. But yeah, losing sucks, and that's why you know, every loss that I have it posted up on my wall in my room.
Wow.
You know, just to remind me.
No, that's one way to look at it, man. That's really like a really good way to do it, and just keep it fresh in your mind. And wow, I don't know if I could do that. I'd be pretty pissed off all the time.
And with that said, every guy that I've lost to within the last year has been a super nice guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, like they've all been great guys. But you know, that's just something that I use to fuel me is your losses. If you would rather forget them and not talk about them, you know, and that's your process, that's whatever. But I think that it's just an individual thing, man. We're all fueled and motivated by different things, and I think it just, you know, losing is definitely the main source for most people, you know, of motivation. But as far as how you take it, you know, there's a variety of ways that you can digest a loss or let a loss motivate you.
Yeah.
And, usually I really like to think about it. Probably not good, but, you know, I think once you think about it enough, you're like, okay, you know, it happened, it's over and done with. And then you can move on. You study your mistakes, and then from that point, you put it behind you, and it's over.
Yep. Keep
on to the next one.
Keep on moving. Go to the next tournament. Try to do better. That's all you can do.
Oh yeah, man. It's a lot. You know, I don't like it. Sometimes I think a lot of people try and take everything and turn it into a philosophy or some deeper meaning. I'm not that kind of person. You know, I'm like, some things just happen and some things do. But whenever it comes to jiu-jitsu, I definitely think that it's a lot like life, in the sense that, you know, like, you're always getting kicked back down, but you're always getting back up. You know, you just keep on going. Regardless of what happens, life keeps on going, and so does your jiu-jitsu.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So, are you just planning on sticking? I know this is like such a cliche. Everybody asks this question all the time, right? But why not? Let's be that guy today. Are you thinking about moving over to MMA at all?
Man, I'll be honest. Whenever I first started jiu-jitsu, that was like all I wanted to do.
Right.
I never thought that I'd really be a competitor. But fact is right now, I want to be the absolute best in the world at jiu-jitsu. I don't want there to be a question. And I know how hard that is to attain. I know how far-fetched and stereotypical it sounds. But that's whenever I will transition over into MMA, is whenever I can at some point say that I'm the best, and whether it's, you know, hopefully the world, but at my weight class, you know, I really want to win ADCC and EBI. So, you know, if that ever happens, then we'll talk about it. But I'm not really planning on it right now because I'm just so focused on my jiu-jitsu.
No, I think that's a very good thing to do. Like, a lot of people do, you know, that's kind of how I initially got into jiu-jitsu as well. Like, you know, I got my ass beat by this giant dude, Brian Mingy, who like said, nah, you probably need to learn how to fight on the ground too. And I was like, well, I could be like a UFC fighter or something. Well, you know, it takes a little bit more than that, believe it or not. And
yeah, man.
yeah, just like, and then some people just get in there, try to master everything they can at once, get burnt out, quit. So no, doing that path, I think that's a really smart thing to do on your end.
Well, I'm young too. You know, like, maybe if I was a little bit older, I was, you know, pushing 30 or whatever, you know, it may be time to start saying, hey, I may want to transition over into MMA. But for right now, I mean, for the next 5 or 6 years, I don't see myself doing anything but competing in jiu-jitsu.
No, you're obviously doing the right stuff already. Like, how old are you again, Chase?
Just turned 20 last month.
Jesus, and a brown belt. God, man, you know, feel my age catch up to me.
For my birthday.
Oh, that's.
I got my brown belt after I turned 20.
That is a hell of a birthday present, man. That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Oh man, it was a crazy weekend, man. We went to ADCC trials and flew back, and we flew back. We got back in Cincinnati, which is about a 4-hour drive for us. We got back at like 11 o'clock. So I got home at 3 a.m. and had a Spanish test at 8 a.m.
Right.
And,
nice.
On my birthday. So then I was like, screw it, I'm skipping the gym today. And then the next day I went back and they gave me my brown belt. Me and we had my good friend Bobby Emmons, who actually owns Nice Guy. He got his black belt, and me and Nikki Sullivan got our brown belts.
That's really cool,
it was a neat
man.
Day.
Hell yeah, that's awesome,
yeah.
dude.
We're still a very, very small gym. Our gym doesn't make any money.
Right.
For real. Like we go in there and train. We keep the lights on, but this isn't like some nice facility. This is an old garage that we train in for for these events, which is it's foreign to some people that are used to training in really nice places that'll come in here. But I love it. The old school feel. It's just like no air conditioning half the time, just that kind of grinding. But it makes you closer to your training partners. I'm telling you, man. Like how small the gym is. Like that gym is just so tightly knit. Whereas at a bigger school, you have your day class crew, your morning class crew, and that. But here, like every single training session, like that's all we have. We just have one class a day. So we're all in there together all the time. So it's a really tight knit gym.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody suffers together. You guys usually become really close after that. So.
Oh yeah, and that's in no way am I saying that like other gyms aren't tight. You know what I mean? I know that there's a lot of people that are really good friends with their training partners, but for some reason, a Nice Guy, man, I don't know. There's just like there's a feeling you can tell whenever you walk in there that just everybody is truly happy to be there, and everybody is everybody's friend, and I like that. Whereas I've been to some schools and in some different parts of the country that it just didn't have that homey feel, I guess, where it didn't, like where the instructors knew who every white belt was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the way it is in our gym. So, and I like that. But then again, I'm from a small town. I'm used to everybody knowing everybody, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
it works out, and I mean, those are the best gyms. Like that's how I started, old school. Like 5 of us just beat the shit out of each other the whole night, and then we call it a day, go home, and try to start it all over again. That's like.
Man, I always wanted to have a story like that. Man, we were training. No clue what we were doing. We were just beating the shit out of each other, and in the garage on some mats. And I'm like, no. Whenever I first started, Joe was just getting back from ADCC, so it wasn't as cool of a story.
Oh yeah, no, that's still a pretty cool one. Like, when I started, I had this guy who was fighting in Abu Dhabi trials, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I thought I was king badass because it was back in the day when we had a brown belt who was teaching class, and I was like. Yeah, that's right. My coach is a brown belt because, everybody else's is like a blue belt. So I felt like, badass back then. So, like, that's a pretty legit, story. I mean, when I say, it was just 5 of us beating the shit out of each other, it pretty much was. I remember helping the coach paint the school. We took a break, sparred. He dropped me with a punch because we were doing kickboxing. And then he was like, are you okay? Shook it off, got up, and kept painting like that. That was those are some of my earliest memories training. But,
yeah, man, that's just an average day at the gym, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably why I'm shitty at math now, though.
Man, but you were talking about the brown belt teaching. My instructors, they started on their own. They didn't really have a coach.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. They started in 97, I think, that was when I was born. So,
Wow.
like, and they were telling how they would have to travel just to find a blue belt, somewhere else. Like a blue belt was just like the most unheard of thing.
Yeah.
They talk, they're like, dude, I'm telling you, that guy was. I've heard them talk about people before. They're like, dude, that guy was a blue belt before anybody was a blue belt.
Wow. Dude, like stories like that I do enjoy hearing about, and kind of really puts into perspective how lucky we are having access to such great coaches, training facilities, stuff like that. You don't have to really go searching for a blue belt. Like, you got at your disposal these really good grapplers. Like, that's something to really, be grateful for.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and good teachers too. Like there's a lot of really good grapplers, but I think there's even a fewer amount of really good teachers that can teach the game. Just, I don't know how some people do it the way they do. And not right now, I'm 20 and I'm starting to teach some and coach a little, do private lessons and stuff. But fact is, like, I'm just watching my coaches right now and how they do things. And, nothing beats a good teacher.
No, not at all.
And I've had two that I can think of, like right off my head, that are just exceptional teachers. And what the reason I think that it's so impressive with them is both of these guys that I'm referring to, Warren Brooks and David Overfield. They're both bigger guys. They're both heavyweights, and they're so good, and they know the art so well. They've been trained so long. They can take my body style, completely different style from the way they grapple and what they're good at, and they can show me things that work perfectly into my game that I'd never even thought of for my body style.
Nice.
And I think that kind of stuff, that's what I want to be able to do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of really good grapplers, and sure, I hope that I'm a really good grappler. But if I can ever be a coach, like the ultimate goal is to be a coach like that. Because, I mean, what better gift can you give somebody?
Yeah. Besides knowledge, that's you're giving something of yourself, and that's why I think, like, man, coaches are amazing, and hope, like you said, one day I want to make sure I'm that good of a coach that I can help people and give them what they want, because that's what they're coming for.
Yeah. Well, Warren, he moved off a few years ago. He now lives in Portland, Oregon. He trains out there with Chael Sonnen and Fabiano Scherner now.
Right.
I don't know if you know who Warren is. He went against Jeff Munson on Submission Underground.
Yeah.
Got a big red beard.
Yep. I know you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, that was one of my original coaches. But
oh, wow.
Every year I still go to Portland and stay with him for a week. And I'm sure he hates me for it, because I just sit there for like a week and just ask him all these different questions that I've been waiting a year to ask him. Just sit there like, man, you got to show me what am I doing wrong here?
That's awesome. That's good to get to do that. So Chase, before we wrap up our podcast today, is there anybody you'd like to thank? Coaches, teammates, sponsors, anybody? The floor is yours, man.
Well, I got to thank all of my team at Nice Guy Submission Fighting, but especially my coaches, Joe Bays, Bobby Emmons, David Overfield, and my training partners. There's so many off the top of my head. Jezra Childry, Nikki Sullivan, and shout out to one of my main training partners, James Mogollon. He actually just announced this week that he's actually re-enlisting in the military and will be leaving soon. So I'm really proud of him, and I'm excited for him to do something that I know that he's really passionate about. And shout out to my sponsor, Hayabusa. Man, I'll tell you what, they got the best gear on the market. I'm telling you. Before they even sponsored me, I was wearing that stuff all the time. I'm just lucky.
Yeah.
But, man, I don't really have anybody else off the top of my head. Just, my team, my sponsors, and, my family and friends. But other than that, think it's been a good time, man. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, dude, I had a great time having you on the show. It's really good to, hear from you because I know Joey said you're a good dude. And I was like, all right, let's get him on the show. And I'm glad that you were able to take some time out to talk to me about jiu-jitsu today, man.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I have a tendency to do that sometimes whenever I get talking about jiu-jitsu. But I would think that's pretty normal. If you love jiu-jitsu enough, you ramble about it from time to time. So
yeah, you hold your friends and family hostage with your jiu-jitsu ramblings, and they're like, God dang it, please be quiet. Nah, but if you're listening to this podcast, you probably participate in many jiu-jitsu rambles, so it's going to be entertaining for them.
Luckily, my dad, yesterday, I moved home for the summer.
Right.
I finished my last final yesterday. So, luckily now I've got somebody in the house that I can just get all these jiu-jitsu rants out to.
Yes.
So, I'm looking forward to a good summer, man. It's just going to be training. That's all I'm going to be doing all day, pretty much, is being in the gym, doing privates, and drilling and training.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Busy summer, and that's good. So, damn, I'm jealous.
Heck yeah.
So Chase, I really do appreciate you coming on the show, man, and we should get you back on the show again at some point because, man, I'm really enjoying listening to your story and how you're coming through, man.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you having me on and listening to me. And I appreciate the exposure. Like I said, this is the first time I got to be on a podcast, so it's a really neat experience, man, and I hope I get to come back on sometime.
Good deal, man. We'll make it happen.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Word. All right. So,
see you soon.
Yeah. So hold on. Don't leave just yet. I got to talk to you after. Let me do the outro. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Remember the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And please visit our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Angry Joe Coffee, and find all of our old episodes, including maybe a t-shirt or two, at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and we'll catch you guys next time.